Hello. Welcome back to Life with Dr. Taylor podcast show. I am so happy you decided to join me again on this. Well, today it is a Wednesday evening for me, whatever time it is for you. Let's just say I'm happy you're back to hear just a little bit of what I have to share. So let's get straight to it. Recently, I find my spirit constantly listening to or yearning to hear the song by Sarah Jakes Roberts that was performed at her Women Evolve conference, where it's On Time God. And the specific verse that constantly plays in my mind, constantly is in my spirit right now in this season is keep watching, keep waiting. And so as the Spirit just kept replaying that part in my mind as I try to do my morning worship, or just even throughout the day while I'm at work. I just keep hearing, keep watching, keep waiting. And I started to try to be a little bit more, I wanted to make sure that I'm watching and waiting appropriately. So I Googled it. I Googled what is watching and waiting. And you all know how God speaks to me normally through revelations. And he basically loaded something to me that was just too good for me to wait until Thursday, Friday, or Saturday to come together and polish this podcast episode better. I just had to go ahead and release it because it was so good, you guys. And what I mean by that, it was like, I'm going to read to you what I was able to see on Google from that. But as you all are aware, I am a physician, and the way it was able to come together, it was like, God, what are you doing? So, but as you're aware, like I said, I believe I'm in a season of waiting for God's promises, waiting for him to show up in my life. And I've been transparent in the past where I feel like a lot of my waiting has to be with my disobedience, where God would tell me or have told me in the past to like do this and do that, and I did the opposite. And so some of my waiting is actually because of my disobedience, where I could have been a little bit farther along, but I decided to reject what he wanted me to do, reject where he was taking me, because I felt like I knew more. I felt like I need to understand more, when in reality I'm learning and I have realized it was really just I needed to trust him. I needed to have faith. And so the keep watching and keep waiting, it was just, it's a good testament of where I am now in my life, where I can wait patiently and expectantly. Whereas in the past, a few seasons ago, I couldn't. It was a few seasons ago where I would trick myself out of a blessing because I was either so insecure or I just didn't have a firm foundation of who my Jesus was. And so when I had Google keep watching and keep waiting, it was a medical terminology that came up. It was watchful waiting. And Wikipedia, you guys, came through for your girl today. Wikipedia was clutch in what I needed to know about this watching and waiting. So this is encouragement to anyone who's in a waiting season, anyone who is feeling like the waiting is just an inactive process, or feeling like the waiting is them not doing anything or God not doing anything, or the waiting is it's just a passiveness and uncomfortableness. And it is uncomfortable, but it's not passive. Waiting is an active process. Watching and waiting is active. It's a verb. You hear that ing at the end? I get it together. So what I saw was that in the Wikipedia, what came up was watchful waiting, medical test. I'm just going to read what it came up and break it down to how it applies to me in this season spiritually, as well as just overall in this season in my life. So watchful waiting, and this is based off of Wikipedia. Watchful waiting is an approach to a medical problem in which time is allowed to pass before medical intervention or therapy is used. During this time, repeated testing may be performed. Related terms include expectant management, active surveillance, and masterly inactivity. Let's get straight to it. Watchful waiting is an approach to a medical problem in which time is allowed to pass before medical intervention or therapy is used. See, the waiting process, the watching and waiting process is literally a time for saying, it's not saying that you're not continuing to be developed. It's not saying that you're not actively growing and becoming who he has destined you to be, or becoming what he needs you to learn before you can get to the next destination. It's like a preparation season spiritually. But in this Wikipedia explanation of what watchful waiting is, it's basically a time where the doctors are able to, they're basically not, it's basically it's basically analyzed through risk and benefit. It's analyzed, okay, well, you could get this treatment, but it's not really at a time where we want to give it to you. So let's watch and wait. Sometimes people, unfortunately, may be in critical condition, and the doctor say, all we can do right now is watch and wait. And so while they're doing the watching and waiting process, whether it's a critical condition or it's just something that intervention is not going to be able to be useful right now, they're not just going to throw you out there and leave you for the dust. They're going to continue to watch your condition, if it worsens or if it improves. And in that, what it said, during this time, repeated testing may be performed. That's what it said next in the sentence. And that's the part that had me just almost shouting, because the doctors may still be checking your vitals, still be checking for labs, checking blood work, checking your heart rate, checking the rhythm of your heart through EKG. They're going to still be paying attention to you, seeing how you have responded to the previous treatment they did, seeing how you're doing just as time is passing. And that is what that's what God does for us in our watching and waiting process. We are yet going to be tested as we're waiting to see not only have we learned from our previous season, have we learned from our tests. Are we continually being his word? Are we continually having a relationship with him? Are we continually seeking him? Are we continually being steadfast and unmovable? Are we continuing to have the faith, even though we don't see the promise yet? We're actively being tested, even though we're in the season of waiting and watching. And that's the part I was just like, oh God, because we think the watching and waiting is just sitting around, but no, God is yet developing us. God is yet preparing us for the next season, for that promise, or whatever it is that's going on in our life, or we're requesting of him, or what he's just going to do according to his will, his perfect power. But we can't get there just by sitting down, just by, kicking against the prick, being upset. Listen, I'm saying that with a laugh, because seasons before, you all, when I was in a waiting season, I was like a baby. Angry, not really angry, but just uncomfortable. Like, I want it, give me my money, and I want it now. But now it's like, okay, God, I'm not ready for whatever it is that it must not be time for whatever I am requesting, whatever it is I'm wanting. But regardless of what it is, I'm going to continue to be faithful unto you. Regardless of what it is, I'm going to continue to praise you. Regardless of whatever it is, I'm going to continue to maintain the correct heart posture to receive whatever it is you want to do. I'm going to continue to develop my character. I'm going to continue to develop the relationship with you even furthermore. I'm going to continue to be in your word. See, these are things that you do as you're watching and you're waiting. And as you're watching and waiting, you just have to have trust in him that the ultimate doctor he's taking care of you. He's watching how things are turning out. And as you're going through tests, he wants you to pass those tests. He's not giving you those tests to fail. He's giving you those tests so you can become better and enhanced, because in this next season that you have after the waiting, everything that you learned in that waiting season, in that preparation season, should help you get through it and manage it better. And I tell the people all the time, don't rush any season. Listen, Dr. Taylor had to learn to get to where I'm at. It was a process, and I'm so thankful for the process, because had I not been in the process, I would not be as stable as I am. I would not be in as much peace as I am. Right now, I know everybody is not going to like me. Right now, I know everybody does not respect me. I'm at a place now, I know that everyone's not going to like that I'm on this podcast. Everyone doesn't even think I have the right authority to be on a podcast. But I know my God and know who he's called me to be. And you have to be like that too. You have to know who you are in and out of seasons. You have to know that in the watching and waiting, there's a reason why you're still in the waiting period. Now, you can ask God why. You can ask God, how do I get out of this? God allows us to communicate with him. But let's not get so caught up in why and not in the who, okay? Trust who God is and trust that his timing is perfect. Trust that his development is perfect and trust that he knows what he is doing, period, okay? So the last part, it was saying related terms include expectant management. You see, as we are watching and waiting, we are expecting our God to move for us. And I had to get back into that spot in my current waiting season because I was starting to lose hope. And being expectant means expectant management is we're constantly having hope. And being expecting God to do what he said he's going to do, expecting him to perform a miracle, expecting him to do the impossible, expecting him. I was starting to just kind of like, I don't want to have too much hope and be let down. But back in my mind, I'm like, hold up. My God said he's able to do exceedingly abundantly above all I can ever think, ask, or imagine, according to the power that worketh in me. And so since I know he's an amazing father, since I know he's a good father, I can expect him to do more than I can even imagine. I can expect that. For I know eyes have not seen, ears have not heard all the things that he has in store for me. And so, and the last couple terms was active surveillance and masterly inactivity. It's an active part. Just like we're actively waiting on God, God is actively watching us. It's going hand in hand. God isn't waiting on, you know what? God sometimes does wait for us to get to where we need to be in order for him to give us whatever we're waiting on, whether it's a blessing, whether it's a breakthrough, whether it's a healing, whatever it is, he's waiting on us to get into the right, whether it's heart posture, whether it's the right moment, because he's not going to do anything ahead of time. He's going to do it right on time. What's the song? He's an on-time God. Yes, he is. Yeah, that's okay. Kind of took it back a little bit. But he's on time. And so as we expectantly wait on him, knowing that he's with us, he's working for us, working it for our good, knowing that we're watching and waiting, but God is watching and waiting for us. He's watching us, watching how our heart posture is, watching what's our mind and our thought patterns, watching our behaviors, watching if we fall into the test or fall into the temptation. It's not for us to fail, but it's just so, why would he give us something that we're not ready for? Why? And so we're watching and waiting. He's watching, waiting. We're just, it's this beautiful dance that we have together. He doesn't need us for anything to happen. God can do it all on his own. He doesn't need our help. But what I'm saying is, whatever this waiting is that he's requiring of us, let's try to do what it is that he wants us to do in this perfect season of his perfect will. Okay? Okay, because he is the master. It says in masterly inactivity. Because as the doctor is watching and waiting, watchfully waiting, as the patient is going through whatever they're going through in their body or procedure, whatever it is, they better know what they're doing and what they're watching for. They better masterly know how they are inactively doing something. Actively watching and not inactively making, a new, giving them a new test or giving them a new medication or some type, like I mentioned before. Okay, sorry, I was kind of stumbling on my words because it's just so good to me. Okay, so as I was thinking about that, you all know as I do my podcast, I like to tie it together because one thing about Life with Dr. Taylor is I love to merge my faith, my motherhood journey, as well as my career in medicine. So I kind of merged my career in medicine and faith already. But I think about how me as a mother, and there's been different seasons in my son's life, what we call milestones, how I used to try to rush my son's development process. I did. I remember he was probably 6 months old and I'll say probably 9 months old. And his preschool teacher was like, he's not speaking as much as the other kids. He's not saying as much. Mind you, the kids should just be saying one word. But she was just noticing that he wasn't really verbalizing as much. And so I'm like, well, I don't want my kid behind and I want to do all that I can. Mind you, you should be aware of your children's milestones, okay? If you know your children are far behind and you take them to their wellness visits that they should go to, what we call well child checks, and you take them to them and they're behind on a lot of things, actively make sure you do what you can to get them caught up. And so I did. I put him in therapy, as far as speech therapy. And mind you, this is not the age where he should be saying 5-10 words. But I just wanted to kind of rush him into doing it. Y'all, where my baby is at now, you would not have any idea. Mind you, he was probably in the speech therapy for probably 6 months to a year. And they were doing what I was doing, basically reading books to him. But now my son is able, he reads the most books out of everyone in his class. He finishes books in like a day. He gets his big, what we call comic books. He finished them in like a 30-minute span. He wants more books. And he reached his level of understanding and reading and comprehension on his own time. And that's where I've learned in my parenting journey is that my son is going to reach his milestones at his own pace. I am just going to be that parent who watches and waits for him to get there. Now, if I need to help him, I will, but I'm not going to be that parent and trying to compare him to other children, okay? If I know this is still a healthy age for him to be where he's at, I'm going to allow him to reach his milestones at the time where Zion feels comfortable to reach those milestones. Now, that has taken time for me to get where I'm at because, like I said, I've always wanted my son to be at the top of everything because I was that child who was at the top of everything. And I have become more of a background mother and I'm loving it. It took time for me to get here because I'm not perfect. I am imperfectly perfect. I am who God has created me to be. I'm recognizing that, but I am fearfully and wonderfully made in his image. And so I know these things. I allow myself to have grace and I allow myself to give my son grace. And so I'm allowing him to just do what he do. And I am just sitting back, watching and waiting until he just blooms and continue to bloom into the amazing man that he will be in his life. And I'm not gonna rush it. I'm not gonna rush him academically. I'm not gonna rush him physically. And what I mean by physically is my son is trying to be a hooper, y'all. And let's just say it's a process. Let's just say Buddy was going against somebody and Buddy got his shot blocked. Whew. And the mother in me wanted to yell, but the heel version mother in me is like, you know what? This is his first season playing basketball. He'll get there. Anyone who knows me, especially my siblings, know that I am a hardcore person when it comes to sports. So it took a lot of me to be like, not to be like, oh, no. So it's a process that I am steadily working and I'm going to constantly be working at and working on. So, that's what I'm on this journey of motherhood, just watching and waiting for my son to just bloom in his own pace because he will get there because it took me time to bloom. It's still taking me time to just kind of sprout forth. I'm doing it at my own pace. And I just encourage other parents who are on here to first know where your child should be at. And if they are behind, speak to your PCP, speak to your psychiatrist, whoever it is, get tested and see if intervention is necessary. But sometimes even your pediatrician or your family medicine doc will even say, let's give it a little bit more time. Let's watch and wait a little bit and see. And if it doesn't get it by this